Port Chicago, 1944. An explosion erased two ships and shattered windows across the bay. After the sirens, life looked normal again. Trains, swing shifts, kids on bikes, but the damage sank into the ground. For decades, Concord Naval Weapons Station kept moving ordnance until the EPA drew Superfund lines across the map. Now that same land is being planned for parks and thousands of homes. Stay with me. By the end, I'll point to one EPA-capped block beside a place that's supposed to feel safe and explain why that matters. Would you live here? Why or why not? It was supposed to be routine. Boxcars rattled down from the bunkers. Crates were counted, hoisted, and stowed. The night air over Suisun Bay was still enough to forget what lived inside those wooden boxes. At 10:18 p.m., the stillness tore. A flash swallowed the pier, then a pressure wave ran along the shoreline like a fist. Two ships were there, then they weren't. Windows jumped in their frames miles away, sirens, then that strange quiet where you wait for a second blast that never comes. By morning, the math wouldn't hold. Hundreds gone, families waiting for news that had no gentle version. The base kept breathing because it had to. Wreckage cooled while orders moved forward. Trains rolled again. New crews took their positions where the old crews had stood. Some call that resilience. The men who loaded munitions had another word: risk. When they were told to resume the same work, many refused. Most were black sailors, given the most dangerous job with the least training and no say. The refusal wasn't quiet, and neither was the response. Courts named it mutiny. Time named it something else, the moment fear and fairness collided, and the Navy had to look at itself. That night didn't just mark an explosion, it marked a shift. From then on, Concord didn't just store explosives, it stored consequences. Some you could sweep off a pier, and some that settled where eyes don't go. Orders returned before the trust did. Crews were rotated, forms rewritten, safety briefings stiffened. On paper, the job was the same: lift, carry, lash, repeat. On paper, everything felt different. The pier had a memory now. The men who said "not again" were marched into a courtroom older than their pay grade. Headlines called them defiant. The sailors called themselves alive. Sentences fell, careers bent, and an uncomfortable truth edged into daylight. The risk wasn't shared equally, and the rules weren't either. Change didn't arrive with a fanfare. It crept. Policy memos, new training, the first cracks in segregation's wall. The ships kept coming, and the base kept feeding wars from a safer distance, or so people hoped. The loud hazard had a name and a date. The quiet ones were learning to travel without either. Trains still clanked at dawn. Families still timed dinner to swing shifts. From the fence line, it all looked normal again. Inside the fence, the normal wore earplugs and watched the wind. The loud danger was easy to film. Crates, fuses, white-hot accidents that make headlines. The quiet danger rarely gets a close-up. As the years passed, the world beyond the base changed, but Concord kept moving the things that make other stories possible. Bombs, shells, fuel, solvents. Some spills were small and logged. Some were routine and never seen as spills at all. Burn pits did what burn pits do. Rain found pathways. What didn't blow up had time to sink. From the road, you'd see the honest parts of work: boots, clipboards, forklifts, a coffee thermos steaming in fog. Under that, soil learns a different language: metals that don't rot, chemicals that wander in water, shards that wait. Risks that used to arrive by ship begin to live in place. Neighbors learn to read the wind. Workers learn to read each other's faces. The base kept its schedule. The ground kept its own. Eventually, the paperwork changed shape. Not shipping orders, site maps. Engineers walked grids, wells were drilled, numbers stacked into patterns. A new set of lines appeared over the old. Zones to dig out, zones to seal, zones to watch for a long time. Cleanup didn't always mean removal. Sometimes it meant capping, laying clean layers over bad ones, then watching. Add monitoring wells. Add institutional controls, rules about where you can dig and how deep. Safe, the people in hard hats said, as long as you respect the lines. It isn't a magic trick, it's management. And management works best when everyone knows the map. On the fence line, families saw a different kind of sign, a future sketched in renderings. Parks, classrooms, porches with evening light. 2 maps, 1 place. The promise is real, so is the fine print. Down at the water, the port never fully slept. Cargo still moved, sometimes the kind that travels with extra rules and extra distance between people. Inland, a new kind of traffic arrived. The quiet hum of driverless test cars tracing tidy loops through an old grid of roads. Yesterday's bunkers, tomorrow's software, same soil. To some, it looked like progress finally winning, base becoming a proving ground, a liability learning to pay rent. To others, it was a reminder that you can change what rolls across the surface without changing what the surface is made of. The headlines liked the contrast. The ground didn't comment. Quick favor before we continue. I'm aiming for 1,000 subscribers this year. If this helped you see the bay's hidden history a little clearer, please subscribe. It genuinely helps. Okay, back to it. The master plans arrived with soft colors and neat labels. Neighborhoods, green belts, bike lanes, schools, numbers large enough to matter. Thousands of homes in a place that badly needs them. But the road from drawing to doorway is long. Developers changed. Deadlines slipped. A proposal came and went that would have placed people here for reasons no one wanted. The community pushed back. Trust is slower to build than townhouses. At public meetings, questions repeated like a chorus. Which soils were removed? Which were capped? Where are the wells? Who gets the data and when? Maps were shown, assurances made. It helped until someone asked a simpler question. Would you raise your kids here? The room always got quieter after that. People carry places in their lungs and in their shoes. A retired worker remembers the dust that used to hang in old warehouses, a common sight in mid-century facilities. A mother near the fence line learns the difference between detect and danger. Biologists watch the marsh at the edges, counting species that only survive in a few square miles on Earth. Everyone is looking at the same map with different eyes. The official language is careful. It has to be. The everyday language is careful too, but for other reasons. You can't keep a constant knot in your stomach and also make lunch, help with homework, and get up for work at 5. Normal life keeps going. So does the question that won't stop tapping the window. A cap looks simple. Clean layers over dirty ones. A note on the map that says do not disturb. It works until a neighborhood needs trenches, basements, trees, fiber lines, and fire hydrants. Neighborhoods dig. So the day begins with a routine ticket. Open a narrow trench for utilities. Crews chalk the line. Supervisors check the permit file. Monitors take a baseline reading. Fencing goes up. Water trucks idle for dust control. The first bucket comes out clean. The second a little darker. The air has that sweet chemical hint no one names out loud. Meters answer in numbers, not opinions. The procedure is the point. Work pauses, samples bagged, a call to the environmental engineer. Compare the lab results to thresholds. If they're below action levels, the trench gets a geotextile barrier, backfill, and a note in the log. If they're above, the design shifts, a different route, a deeper barrier, or a small removal under containment. Paperwork follows the dirt. Most days, this is exactly how the system is supposed to function. Controls, monitoring, documentation. But families don't live inside procedures. They see a kid rolling in new grass, a dog digging where dogs dig, and a garden hose running in July. Safe enough on a form still has to feel safe on a porch. That's why the map matters. In a minute, we'll put a finger on one capped rectangle and show how those rules look when a planned, safe place sits right next door. Pull the map up. Not the pretty one, the layered one. Base outline first. Now the EPA layer. Operable units, monitoring wells, capped polygons. Finally, the reuse plan. Future streets, parks, homes. When all three sit on the screen, your eye goes to it immediately. A neat rectangle that means sealed and managed, sharing a border with a spot meant to feel ordinary. A dog walk corner, a pocket green, maybe a cul-de-sac. What does that rectangle actually say? Not danger, run. It says, this area was contaminated, it's been addressed by capping or containment, and it's safe under conditions. Conditions with capital letters, land use controls, health and safety plans during construction, soil management rules, and a promise to monitor. If you leave the cap intact, if you don't dig without a plan, if you route utilities with barriers and paperwork, then the numbers stay where they should. Two people can look at that and see different futures. An engineer sees a system doing its job. A parent sees a rule they have to trust forever. So here's the real friction point, finally on screen. Safe under conditions meets safe without thinking about it. That corner is where the story lives. If this place is going to become porches and playgrounds, then the promise has to be bigger than renderings. It needs a checklist you can feel. Targeted removals were feasible. Don't cap what you can safely haul away. Save caps for what truly can't move. Design for the ground you have. Vapor barriers were needed. Deep utility sleeves. Tree species with shallow roots or root barriers. Transparent monitoring. Real dashboards, updated on schedule, not PDFs hidden 3 clicks down. Put the well data on a map that the public can read. Independent eyes. Third-party audits and community oversight, not just agency sign-offs. Right-to-know packets. Every buyer gets a plain English soil and groundwater brief, the exact controls on their lot, and who to call before they dig. No-dig covenants that are humane, clear, reasonable rules, with funded help if a homeowner needs to fix a fence post or plant a tree the right way. A maintenance fund that outlives politics. Caps, wells, and instruments age, budgets shouldn't. Do those things, and the map stops being a secret. It becomes part of how the neighborhood works, like trash day and street sweeping, not a ghost you pretend not to see. Contractor gamble, you decide. Subscribe.